Right now, we're pleased to welcome Caleb Saylor's Multimedia Journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
I might pursue a career in music if Rhino keeps me energetic today. Goodness, Rhino, you always got it going on, man.
All right there, Caleb. I guess the first thing you're going to talk to us about is how we're going to get a budget here for the state of Mississippi.
Well, I mean, Gerard, it looks like we're going to be heading toward a special session soon. How soon, I'm not entirely sure, but Governor Tate Reeves did hold a press conference yesterday, and he announced that there are plans to hold a special session at some point. You know, June 30th is the deadline for the legislature to finalize a budget, for it to be, you know, completely finalized, and us to have a budget, $7 billion budget to run our state government. But so a little backstory, Gerard, I know you've talked about this on your show, but for our listeners who haven't heard this, over the weekend, this past weekend, it was conference weekend, and the Senate showed up eager to hammer out a budget with the House. Well, the House decided not to show up. And House Speaker Jason White outlined why. He took to social media explaining that he didn't believe in going to behind closed door meetings on the weekend and rush out a budget. He said, you know, we'll conduct business again this week, and we'll give the Senate an opportunity to meet with us, and we can extend the session and then go from there. And the House did. They offered an amendment or a concurrent resolution to extend the regular legislative session, and the Senate just had a fundamental disagreement with that. They didn't oblige, and so the rules were not suspended to extend the session to finalize a budget, and so both chambers adjourned to sine die without a budget being sent to the governor. And so Tate Reeves, obviously our governor, had to respond, had to say something, all right, give the people an update on what the heck is going on. And the governor was very positive, Gerard. He was very optimistic yesterday in his press conference, where he talked about how I'm going to assure the people, this is what he said, I'm going to assure taxpayers the government's not going to shut down. We're not going to lose our core functions. It's going to be okay. And he seemed optimistic, too, that the House and Senate, though there's been a lot of infighting this session, and I want to talk about that in a second, Gerard, but he seemed optimistic that there is going to be a budget, that the fighting has been over fundamental differences in approach to getting things done, but not really over the budget itself. And I really haven't seen a ton of disagreement between the cross-chamber counterparts about the budget specifically. Now, I know they've argued over taxes, over school choice, etc., but the budget, there really hasn't been any major disagreements. They just disagree with the approach. And so the governor said that he's convinced that the House and Senate aren't too far apart on this, and that they can come together and we can get something done ahead of July 1st. So to avert a government shutdown, a state government shutdown.
Never heard that before, shutting down the state government, huh?
No.
I know some of the agencies are talking about it. They're pretty nervous about this right now.
But the governor sounded reassuring yesterday, and so we'll see. I mean, maybe he's more optimistic than some, and maybe he's – I don't know. There has been a lot of drama this session. Gerard, looking back at last session 1 year ago, where – we had all these fights over Medicaid expansion or changing the education formula, and it was a very dramatic session. I thought going into this one, I'm like, well, it's not the first year of a newly elected or a second-term governor, and so this one should be a lighter. It's going to be a shorter and a lighter session. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, this was probably as dramatic of a session as I can remember. And
I don't know that we had on our bingo card, that we were going to have this tax reform debate. And it was going to be that contentious,
right? And then that there would be a typo, and that it would cause bad blood between the two chambers. And I mean, Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd was on your program, and I give her a lot of credit for speaking openly and candidly about how she feels, while some beat around the bush and will make jokes about how they feel about the whole tax ordeal. She said it out loud. She said, I didn't appreciate how the House handled that. Yeah. I didn't appreciate them not coming to us with the error. She says, if it happened on our end of the chamber, on our end of the Capitol, we would have gone to the other side and told them, hey, there's a mistake here. We can correct this and work to this. And she said she didn't appreciate how that happened on the House's side. And then she also talked about her party, the Republican Party, that has a supermajority in Mississippi in both the House and Senate, yet can't really seem to come together on much of anything. And she talked about how she was disappointed in the party, kind of fundamentally right now in Mississippi. And a lot of people look at our legislature and how they've conducted business this year, and it is kind of sad to see the infighting, the tomato throwing among leaders on both sides. And hopefully a special session can remedy some of these issues? I'm not going to hold my breath on that.
I don't think so. There's no consensus among the legislature on what direction we should go in from some of these complex policy perspectives. Now, the House, I think I shared it with you, they actually did pass a resolution that would have kept us in session.
Right, and I talked about that. Yeah, HCR 70. Yes, to suspend the rules, keep us in session. The Senate said no.
But there was a typo.
Yeah, a date typo.
Right. So the House committed a typo error as well.
Now, my question though was that a typo that we missed it, or were they trolling? See,
I don't know. Just so our audience will know, the typo was that they were resolving in this measure that the session would remain open and would sine die on Thursday, April the 11th, 2025. Yeah. There's only one little bitty problem.
Yeah, that's a Friday.
That's April 10th. Thursday is April 10th.
Yeah.
And Friday would be April the 11th.
1 week from today is April 11th. That is a Friday. And so
I don't know. We got legislators trolling?
I don't know. I'm not going to attribute motive, but perhaps. I mean, that would be kind of a sick joke, though. They were trolling with that. But who knows at this point, Gerard? But the governor did outline, though, that he does plan to send us to a special session. Yeah. He doesn't want it to be long. He said he made it clear he didn't want to spend a lot of taxpayer dollars. We know that it cost over six figures of taxpayer dollars to have these people, to feed them, to house them, et cetera, have them in the Capitol. And so, but the governor he's going to be able to set the agenda for this special session, though. And so if he has some other things he wants to iron out other than the budget, and he mentioned some by name like school choice, certificate of need reform, mobile sports betting, etc. Well, we could see some of those bills revived too, Gerard.
Ben from Madison said every dime spent on the special session should be paid by the speakers and the lieutenant governor's salaries. They are both to blame, in my opinion. I don't think their salaries would quite cover it, though, Ben.
Well, they're going to have to take out some loans, but
I hear you, though.
I get the taxpayer frustration, though. I get the taxpayer frustration that this could have been handled. Yep. And to the House's credit, the House gave the Senate a lifeline to get this done within the legislative session, and the Senate said no. But also, I understand the Senate's qualms, too. They said, we have conference weekend. This is what we do. You guys didn't show up. But I will say that's kind of an argument that won't fall on Jason White's ears, because he's been clear that he does not want to represent the status quo in Mississippi.
Right.
And I will say he's held true to that promise.
Well, they sent appropriations and spending and revenue bills, and
I understand
all they need.
I understand the argument that those were not sent signed. Yeah. But the truth lies somewhere in the middle there. We'll find out soon.
It's dysfunctional. Right. They need to take Rhino up on his procession.
No
to move those bills. No confusion under those circumstances.
Well, Gerard, transitioning here, we had some local elections this week, and one with huge bearing is here in Jackson, where we are right now in our state capital, with Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, the incumbent, kind of getting it didn't look good for him Tuesday night. John Horn, who is a state senator who's obviously been on this program and many of our other programs numerous times, and he's been on the city council in Jackson, garnered just about 48.5% of the vote during the Democratic primary on Tuesday, and the mayor incumbent got about 17% of the vote. So it's going to a runoff, but those numbers lead you to believe that, when we go to April 22nd in the special, the runoff, John Horn's a clear favorite in this. And so it looks like Jackson could be getting a new mayor. Now, how much of the vote went against the mayor, Lumumba, for his alleged involvement in a federal bribery scandal, and him being under the gun by the FBI and others, and how much did that sway voters? I'm not sure, but I do know that there is a bit of fatigue in Jackson, where some do want new leadership, and so that's a race to keep an eye on. And others, like the city of Flowood, here, one of our suburbs, got its third ever mayor. Gary Rhodes, the longtime mayor who kind of built the city, retired, and Kathy Smith, the person he endorsed, she got the seat in Flowood. And we had some incumbents get defeated. Kenny Holloway in Ocean Springs.
That was a little surprising,
Well, he got defeated by the alderman at large.
Sure did.
Yes, and then in Pass Christian, Kenny Torgeson defeated the incumbent Jimmy Rafferty.
Right.
And so we had some
surprised at that too.
Big elections here in Mississippi.
Yeah. All right, Kelly, appreciate you coming in. Great rundown, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Gerard.
We're coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.